106.5? It's time now for Front Page Jacksonville, a show that delves into the issues that affect you. We believe in transparency and providing only the facts. And now, here's Octavius Davis.
Hey! Who turned the heater off? Who left the AC on? Somebody left the freezer door open or something, because it is entirely too cold outside for this to be considered Florida. I don't like it. I'm a Florida boy for a reason. Sunshine, humidity, okay? Go outside to walk to the mailbox and you perspire a little bit because it's hot. That's what I like. That's what I enjoy. But this, let me tell you how cold it is outside. I was sharing with my producer, Jack. Last night, I had to park in the driveway instead of the garage. We're getting a new washer and dryer, had to put the dryer in the garage, but that's a whole nother story. Either case. So this morning, I go out to my car. Mind you, I leave my home at about 3:50 in the morning on Sundays to get here to the station on time. My car was blanketed in, that frozen ice that we get here. I'm like, all right, cool, no big deal. I'll just hop in the car, turn the heat on, throw the defrost on. I got something for this. I'll show this ice how we do in Florida. I'm cranking the heat all the way up. So that's what I do. Turn the heat all the way up. And it begins doing what it's supposed to do. I see the ice begin to thaw. And I'm like, all right, cool. I can go ahead and drive on to the station. But then I go to click my garage door clicker so that it can close the garage. The thing was frozen in my car. It would not work. So that means I had to get out the car, run back into the garage, click the button. But then, for those of you who have a garage attached to your home, you know exactly what I'm about to say. I had to do the little two-step over the sensor to prevent the garage door from stopping. But at the same time, I got to be cognizant of where the garage door is so I don't bust my head as I'm trying to beat the garage so I can get back to my car. All thanks to this frigid weather that we're experiencing right now. I don't like it. Let's send it back to wherever it came from. Because when you look at the country, the West Coast is on fire and the East Coast is freezing over. It's a very interesting time right now. But speaking of the West Coast, to everyone who's in LA, if you have family out on the West Coast who has been impacted by the fire, keeping them lifted up in prayer, sending positive thoughts and energy their way, that they're safe, that they will be able to find shelter, and then, of course, have the necessary resources to be able to rebuild, essentially, because, man, it is very devastating to see the natural disaster that's ravishing that area right now. So once again, sending thoughts and prayers to each and everyone who's been impacted and being impacted by the fires out in L.A. There are several different things that I do in addition to this radio show and my day job with the nonprofit organization. I also teach a course where I show people how to get started as a voice actor. I've been a voice actor for well over 20 years. And so I teach people, it's an online course, I teach people how to get started. Either case, a few years ago, a gentleman by the name of Roland Wiley came through my course. Great guy. He, had been dabbling in voice acting, but hadn't quite seen the success that he wanted to see. And so he reached out to me and came through my course, and man, he has catapulted with his voiceover career. As a matter of fact, a month ago, he was recognized. There is a voice acting award society that happens there in L.A., and he was recognized as like one of the finalists for this competition that he has going on. Well, I'm friends with him on social media, and we converse periodically. check in, how's everything going, so forth and so on. And he lost his home in the fire. He's one of the individuals who lost his home in the fire. And so just as I know someone who's been personally affected by what's going on, I'm pretty sure you do as well. So again, I reiterate thoughts and prayers for those individuals, but I'm going to kick it into a different gear as well. If you can also support with your resources, because thoughts and prayers are cool, but thoughts and prayers don't fill bellies. Thoughts and prayers can't pay a bill. So I'd like to encourage you, if it's within your means to do so, and if you personally know someone whom you can help, please, if you haven't already, please consider being generous and supporting them. I'll be honest, I'm very leery when I see random GoFundMe accounts start to support individuals, an initiative or a cause, or when I see nonprofit organizations that say they're raising money for this particular catastrophe that happened, this, that, and the other. I'm like, nah, I would have put the money in the people's hand myself. What's their Cash App? I'll send them the money directly. Hey, Playboy, you got Zelle? Yeah, let me send you a couple of dollars, that way. Because I don't want nobody skimming off the top what I'm trying to give you to help you and yours be able to recover. Nah, I understand through the wings of an angel and all that you're singing, Sarah McLachlan. But yeah, what's the Cash App to the dogs and the pet owner people? I'll send them the money directly. I want to make sure that my resources are going to do what I intend for my resources to do. Ain't nobody trying to scam a lot me over here. No. I want no parts of it. We just wrapped up the first week of 2025, the first full week of 2025. How's it going for you so far? Quick accountability check-in, Jack. Quick accountability check-in. Come on the mic with me real quick, sir. Make sure you get programmed over there.
And we in program.
First full week of 2025. You and I, we had a brief discussion last week about fitness and improvements, et cetera. Talk to me, Jack. How was that first week?
It was good. I cannot lie. Some days, I was expecting, honestly, me to walk in here like, nah, I didn't do any of that. But, and I'm not saying I went, every day in the gym.
Sure.
I think I went maybe 1 or 2 days a week. Also got all the friends out to the beach, even though it was cold. Played a little pickup football.
Yeah.
So, just getting active, going outside, even though it's freezing cold, might not want that. But, fresh air, going to the beach, going outdoors, just staying active, cooking home-cooked meals for myself as well.
Sir.
Last night I did splurge and let myself get some McDonald's, though.
Well, every now and then.
I had it in a while. I don't think I had gotten my first McDonald's of 2025 yet. So, I had to pop in there and say what's up to my people,
Hey, there's nothing wrong with that. Moderation.
Moderation, exactly.
Right. We want to do these things in moderation. So I'll share some accountability with you, since you were generous enough to share your accountability with me, Jack. So working out, that's not a problem for me. I'm like clockwork. That's going to happen. My challenge, I am a junk food junkie. Donuts, pastries, sodas, chips. I mean, the whole gamut.
The works,
yes. And you put the donut on the chip with the spring. I'm teasing.
Oh, man. I was about to say, Octavius, what's all this about accountability?
That's some extreme big back behavior. No. That's a bit extreme. Now, so here it is, the first full week. I am proud of myself because prior to Wednesday, I had not had any sugary snacks since January 1st, prior to this Wednesday. And the only reason why I allowed myself to have a slice of cake on Wednesday is because I had to go down to Clearwater. One of my, former team member now, but she retired. And so we had a cake for her, celebrating her and everything she's done with the organization. I could not have cake, So I had a slice of cake on Wednesday. I did. And I had some soda. But then Thursday came around. So I drove down to Clearwater on Wednesday, came back that evening. Thursday, another team member also retired here in Jacksonville. And guess what? There was another cake. Well, I'm the director, Jack. I can't not have cake. So I had a slice of cake on Thursday, too. So I had cake on Wednesday. I had cake on Thursday. I had soda on Wednesday. And then yesterday, another thing for me, too, pizza. Oh, for the past couple of years, in my home, I call Friday Pie Day. That is how often I order pizza at my home. My daughters, they don't like Friday because they're like, pizza again. Well, look here, daggone it. You got your own job, your own money. If you don't want pizza, go buy what you want.
And who are you to complain about pizza? What was that? That kind of sent a shock through me, Octavius.
That is how often I order pizza. Now, me and my son, look, we're going to go for it. He's to the point now where I have to order his own pizza. Mm-hmm. He will eat the entire thing himself, right? And so, I ordered pizza again yesterday. Now, yesterday wasn't Friday. It was Saturday.
Pizza Saturday.
Pizza Saturday. It still works. It plays very well. And so I had 3 slices of pizza and a soda. But I didn't drink all of the soda. Just enough to wash the pizza down. You can't drink water with pizza. It's not the same. The acid reflux is going to, send you for a loop. So that's how the first week of January has gone for me. I haven't stepped on the scale yet to see if my pounds have come down. Now, someone may look at me and say, dude, I know you're not tripping about your weight. Well, I have a goal, okay? Here's one of my goals. I work out a lot, excessively. I run excessively, but I cannot see my abs. I can feel them, but I can't see them. So my goal by late spring, early summer, Jack, I want to see this 6 or 8 pack that I'm feeling. I want to see the fruit of my labor has not been in vain. Now, I can't promise you that once the fall rolls around that I'm going to, backslide into my junk food junkie ways. But I want to at least prove to myself that I can have enough restraint from the sugary sweets so that my abs can pop through. That's the goal. That's the goal. So we'll see what happens. Now, for you, listener, how have your 2025 goals and resolutions been coming so far? Are you staying the course? Have you already given up? I hope not. I hope you haven't already given up. Every now and then, you may find yourself some days are going to be better than others, and that's okay. That's natural. So if you missed it a day this week, 2 days this week, 3 days this week, if you missed the whole week, just hit the reset button tomorrow. Hit the reset button tomorrow and follow through with that promise to yourself. You're going to feel so much better about what you're working towards. There are a lot of different things that I'm looking forward to jumping into on the show today to share with you. Have quite a few guests that will be coming through as well. Before we get into any of that, I want to give a quick kudos and round of applause to the state of Florida. Not yesterday, but this past week, Governor Ron DeSantis was in Jacksonville. Friday, that is. He was here in Jacksonville and announced that Florida's high school graduation rate has rose to 89.7% during the 23-24 school year. That's an increase of 1.7% from last year, which exceeds the pre-pandemic rate of 86.9% for the 2018-2019 school year. Now, that's a collaborative effort with teachers, enrichment programs, paraprofessionals, parents, and the students, because the students have to do the work. I humbly believe that education is a 3-part process. One teaches, but the one who learns is also responsible for applying. So teaching, learning, applying. That's the education process in my mind. The one who is learning has more responsibility in their learning process because they are the ones who must now go and apply what's been learned. So the fact that Florida has an 89.7% graduation rate, that's what the rate was this past year. Kudos to each and every one of those students, their support systems as well for helping them to be able to accomplish that. Now, during that press conference, Governor DeSantis also said that Florida's educational model should be a blueprint for the rest of the country. Well, hold on there now, Tiger. Slow down just a little bit. I won't quite jump to that extreme. Let's celebrate this small victory, okay? But let's not try to run out there and win one for the Gipper. You're talking about trying to use Florida's educational model as a blueprint for the rest of the country. Nah. There's still some kinks to work out from our educational process. But nonetheless, congratulations to all of the educators, our teachers who are often overlooked, underpaid, overworked. Thank you so much for everything that you continue to deposit into the lives of these young people. Speaking of educators, in a few moments, we're going to have a guest join us here in the studio, an absolute powerhouse. I'm not going to spoil it for you, but I will say this. There is a documentary that's going to hit a few different channels tomorrow. And this powerhouse that I'm speaking of is the catalyst behind the scenes. I am excited to have Thelma Straight join us in the studio in just a little bit. And so in addition to Thelma joining us in the second hour, we have two guests that will be coming into the studio. Last month, as a matter of fact, I believe it was December 9th or 10th, whichever day that Sunday was where the show fell on. I was sharing with you about a story where in Brentwood, the city has approved for a morgue and forensic lab to be built in Brentwood within a residential area. Well, we have joining us here in the studio the president of the Metro Gardens Neighborhood Association for Brentwood. She's coming in the studio with us today to talk about this very issue. I shared with you on that show that I was going to keep you posted and that we were going to reach out to the community to come in and talk about the issue. Well, the community reached out to me. Ms. Bell reached out to me and said, hey, I would love to be a guest on your show. This is what's going on. I said, oh, Ms. Bell, I would love to have you because I've already addressed this on the show. And I would love to have her come in and talk about how it's impacting that community, things that the local news media may not cover. Well, she's going to be joining us in studio during hour number 2. And we have a OG. We got a legend in Jacksonville that's going to be joining us in the studio. I'm talking about Sylvester Pinckney. If you are familiar with Kids Hope Alliance and all of the good work that they do in after-school programs and throughout the community, well, Mr. Pinckney is one of the engines behind that Kids Hope Alliance motor that's making these differences throughout our community. So that, in addition to different news stories that are impacting the city of Jacksonville, is what is coming your way right here on Front Page Jacksonville. I'm Octavius Davis. More is on the way.
Now back to the show that informs you and discusses the issues. Front Page Jacksonville on Hot 106.5.
In 2009, 12 at-risk teenage African-American young men set out to interview African-American men from all walks of life. The kids hoped that they would learn how to keep from being in the streets. Well, today being today's day and time, they are now young men themselves. They're no longer teenagers. They've now become of age. And they're having an opportunity to rewind the clock and go back to speak with those gentlemen they had an opportunity to interview when they were teenagers, to look at what those outcomes have become. Well, joining us in the studio this morning is, I think I referred to her as the champion, the catalyst, the the thought process behind this whole project. Joining us in the studio this morning, Thelma Straight. Thelma, welcome to Front Page Jacksonville.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So we're going to get into Road Scholars. Road Scholars is the name of the documentary that I just made mention of. We'll get to that in just a moment. But you have a very interesting background, educational background, of course. But share with our listeners a little bit about who Thelma Straight is.
I am an almost 60-year-old woman who was born in Biloxi, Mississippi, 1965, during a time when the laws were changing, but people's attitudes had not. Most of my siblings, I was one of 10. Both my parents were Catholic, took us to church every Sunday. My oldest siblings went to segregated schools, but because my parents had fought for the right for us to go to integrated schools, I was an integrator, but without people standing with guns to protect me as I walked in.
Sure.
So first grade, I sat in the back of an all-white classroom and was never acknowledged.
Were you the only African-American child in that classroom?
No, my sister and maybe a couple of others. And then even in church, we sat in the back. It was an all-white Catholic church, and we were rarely acknowledged. That sort of made me wonder what kind of God would make me sit in the back just because I'm black. So all that sort of formed how my life would move forward, because people always told me that I was less than. We never learned about people like me. It was sort of a whitewashed experience. So I always told people if I could get out and survive Mississippi, I could survive anything.
Wow.
But I gained a lot from Mississippi, you know, culturally. My family's there. So that's pretty much my background. For most of the time of my life, I worked at UNF for several years as an executive secretary to deans. And then I taught English and literature for probably 15 years. And now I am a paraprofessional for Duval County Schools, and I go to a different school each day and I assist students throughout the day.
And you have some civil rights in your DNA as well, in terms of just your involvement. What has been your involvement with social issues and civil rights issues?
I think I was born into that.
Yeah.
It was just a part of my life. It was the way we lived. Kind of like walk softly and carry a big stick. So I've always been driven to prove people wrong about black people. I think that's what drives me.
Yeah.
Which is not really a good thing all the time. I wake up, tell me I can't do it, and I'll show you I can.
I love that attitude. And so a varied background of different experiences. Thank you for sharing what life was like for you and your family there in Mississippi. Something that you didn't mention, I was joking with you when you came into the studio. I said, hey, is it cold enough for you? He's like, oh, well, I'm from Philly. I'm like, wait, yeah.
Not from Philly.
Well, not from Philly, but you lived in Philly, right? Like, oh, yeah, this isn't cold. This is summertime for us, right? So Road Scholars, with everything that you had an opportunity to experience as an educator and just your personal experiences growing up, 12 young men, you had an opportunity to bring them together and begin initiating this Road Scholar documentary. How did this begin? How did this start?
My son, Franklin, is part of the documentary. He just turned 29 last year, but he was 14 in middle school and was being bullied because he was smart. It wasn't cool to be smart. So one day he was telling me about this in the car, and we're driving from school, and I saw 3 boys about his age, pants sagging. You know, so we started having a conversation about what would he have to do to fit in. And he said, well, I'd have to disrespect my teachers, I'd have to do drugs, I'd have to do inappropriate things with girls. So after that conversation, I decided I couldn't save them all, but I was going to grab a handful. So I gathered 12, Franklin and a few of his friends. Everybody else, I found a couple at Jasmine. I wanted a diverse group.
Yeah.
So they range from age 14 to 18, all walks of life, but all from Jacksonville.
Were their parents very receptive to them participating in this project?
Absolutely. It was like, thank you, big hugs.
Yeah.
Somebody should have done it a long time ago.
Last night, as I was doing prep for today's show, there's about a 10-minute snippet of the documentary itself that I came across on YouTube. And it was so interesting. Franklin. I remember seeing him and hearing him speak about his experience there in the documentary. But a few of the young men were just kind of talking about just stereotypical things that they encountered as teenagers. And while some of them may have found themselves gravitating towards some of those negative things, when Rhodes Scholars came about, or at least the interview process, and they had an opportunity to start talking to men who had kind of walked those paths, I was like, nah, I'm not about that life, right? And so what inspired me immediately was, wow, here's a woman who saw a problem, and rather than waiting for someone else to come up with a solution, you decided, you know what, I'm going to make this happen myself. So you have Franklin, you have 11 other young men. A project like this requires funding because you all did some traveling as well. How were you able to gather the funds to pull off this project?
So while I was at UNF as an executive secretary, they introduced a transformational learning grant for people who worked on campus but weren't faculty. And what it offered was 1 semester sabbatical, travel funds or research funds, and recording equipment. And that's where I started. I also did a GoFundMe, but I had 2 really remarkable producers, Robbie Gordon and Sarah Walker, who found cameramen from all over the country and sound people who just came and were retired and had already won their awards, but they only come back for projects that they thought were worthy. That's what one of the cameramen told me. So not this past March, but the one before, we all gathered at Volano Beach, and all these people flew down to this beach house, for little or nothing, because they thought it was important enough. So for me, I did a little GoFundMe, and UNF started it with a 1-credit independent study with a faculty sponsor. But the message to everybody listening is that you don't need funding to have a conversation with a young person. And it doesn't have to be a black boy. It can be a Chinese girl who might be having anxiety, or, young people are in a critical situation right now, and it's up to us as adults. I think we fail them, particularly black boys and girls, and it's time to do something, and it's free. All you need to do is have a conversation. It doesn't have to be recorded, doesn't have to be on national TV, but it can change a young person's life.
So let's talk about some of the adults who answered the call to be a part of the Rhodes Scholars documentary, because you mentioned these individuals traveled to that house there in Volano. Who are some of the men who are appearing in this documentary?
Some of the coolest men I've ever met. So, Nat Glover, first black sheriff since Reconstruction in Florida. Alton Yates, who did testing for effects of speed on the human body before we had astronauts. Former felons, drug addicts, to let them see, I used to be a boy just like you, and I followed this kid, and now I'm strung out. So they saw the good and the bad, and it was up to them to decide, which path they wanted to take.
Yeah. And what I love about the concept of the Rhodes Scholars documentary, which is airing tomorrow, by the way, we'll share that information with you in just a moment. But shoot, I don't know. And I'm horrible at math. I always let my listeners know math is not my forte. But in 2009 is when the project began, when they were teenagers. Now, fast forward to today's day and time. These are now men. I can't even call them young men. These are men. What has the experience been when they sit down with these gentlemen now that they themselves are men? What was that atmosphere like?
It was cool and surprising to be sitting on the outside looking at them as men, having known them, since they were adolescents. And I was surprised by the most critical things that they talked about. I should not have been surprised. But their biggest concern was mental health, erasing the stigma, talking about it. It's not a bad thing to be smart. It's a great thing to be smart. And we can make a difference in the world and, the greater good. And they'd all been stopped by the police before. All of them. They were asked to raise their hand if they'd been stopped. They all shared that experience.
Wow.
And really it's like a fine line when you see your peers selling drugs and making that quick money. When you're in medical school, you're driving for Lyft, you're working at Walmart. It's so tempting to go the other way. And they talked a lot about that too. How do you stay focused?
Wow. Road Scholars is the name of the documentary. I can tell you, as a father with a 14-year-old son, this is something that my wife and I will definitely have an opportunity to sit down and watch with him because of the reality of the social interactions that as African-American men and young men, we may potentially find ourselves within. I believe this Road Scholars documentary could be a very great tool to help young men prepare as they're continuing that transition to becoming men in our community. So, Thelma, let our listeners know how can they see this documentary tomorrow when it debuts?
The documentary premieres tomorrow night, 9:00 p.m., 8 Central, on PBS and also on the World streaming channel.
Very good. And if they can find you on social media, you do a little social media every now and then, don't you?
A little bit. I just told you that I'm from the generation where the phone was still attached to the wall and the TV still went off at midnight.
Right. How can they find you on social?
They can find me at Thelma Straight on Instagram and Facebook.
Road Scholars is the name of the documentary. Watch this documentary. If you know of someone who has young men in their lives, encourage them to watch this documentary as well. It's being produced by one of our very own, and the young men are all from Jacksonville as well?
Yes.
Wow. So you may even see one of your family members. It may be your neighbor that's in this Road Scholars documentary. So be sure that you check it out. Premiering tomorrow, Monday, January 13th, 9:00 Eastern, 8 p.m. Central, on Local USA YouTube and on PBS. Thelma Straight, thank you so much for hanging out with us today on Front Page Jacksonville.
Thank you for having me.
More is on the way. Stick around.
The heartbeat of the community. Front Page Jacksonville returns on Hot 106.5.
It's a simple but yet powerful statement. So if there's anything else happening around you right now, I'm going to ask that you eliminate those distractions so that you can understand this. Death is not welcomed in Brentwood. I'll say that again. Death is not welcomed in Brentwood. Last month, I shared with you that the city approved for a new morgue to be put up in the Brentwood area. There's also a liquor store that's been approved in the Brentwood area. A Sulzbacher Center that's been approved in the Brentwood area. Each of these entities are near residential housing. It's near schools where children play, where they go to learn. Joining me in the studio this morning is Lydia Bell. She's the president of Metro Gardens Neighborhood Association for Brentwood. Miss Lydia, welcome to Front Page Jacksonville. How are you this morning?
I am fine and cold, and thank you so much, the $1 Million Voice, to be here with you.
Absolutely. Glad to have you in the studio. I'm excited that you're in the studio with me this morning because, as I just mentioned to the listener, I brought this topic up last month. On two different occasions. Brought it up early December, speaking about the morgue, and then just a few weeks ago, we had Stephen Johnson with Florida Rising in the studio, and we were also talking about this very same thing. So thank you for making time to come in on this Sunday morning to talk with us about what's going on in Brentwood. So we know what the news article says, but you live in the Brentwood area. Tell us what's happening in Brentwood right now.
Well, when it started in February of 2023, when I was taking my niece home, and she said, Auntie, they building a drive-through liquor store by the school. I say, by the school? I drove up there. I say, sir, what are you building? He said, drive-through liquor store. I said, this close by the school? Ma'am, I'm just a builder. So therefore, we had to find out how did this happen. And when we went to the city council to speak out against it, it was like everyone telling us about they had a meeting, no one was present, so they voted to allow the liquor store to be there. But when I asked, and then they say they mailed out information to everyone, which they did not. We did not receive a notice. It was a Zoom meeting. We did not receive a notice of that. So we went about trying to find out how did this happen, and we did. And it took us almost a year to find out what happened. The man, the owner had purchased the property for $150,000. He was approved, but he did not commence the building until 2023. He was supposed to start building a year later after the approval, which was 2021. By this time, KIPP school come in,
Right.
do everything right. They build a school. So even if he was supposed to build in 2021 and didn't, why are you building in 2023 and the school is there?
Right.
So when we started picketing, having rallies, it turned out that someone said in April that they were building, a morgue was coming into Brentwood. And it's like, a morgue? What could a morgue be? We found out a month later while we out there, senior citizens. I'm 74. Everyone in my committee is 70 and over.
Yes, ma'am.
So we heard that a morgue was coming over there. Where could they? A month later, that was April of 2023. A month later, they were building the morgue. They broke ground May 15th. And this had been in the planning since for 7 years. And
The morgue had been in planning for 7 years?
For 7 years.
To be placed in the Brentwood area?
Well, they had a list. They say they had a list of 38 sites. We say,
Okay.
Can we see the sites? They gave us a list of 26. All of those sites were light and industrial areas where a morgue should be.
Right.
No neighborhood was on that list. Brentwood was not on that list, so we trying to find out, how did you all end up in Brentwood? They came in Brentwood because it's redlining. The most undesirable things are placed in the black community. And this would be a 300-body morgue from bodies from Clay County, Baker County, Nassau County, and all of Duval County. And the morgue is 3 feet from residents' home, front, side, and back, and 32 feet from the school. And it's as if we're not supposed to be concerned with all those chemicals that's coming in,
Right.
the psychological impact on our children watching, and it's one little small block, and our homes turning into coffins. Brentwood is not a cemetery. There is at no given time that a morgue should be in front of our children or in our home. We are taxpayers, and if we knew we've been paying taxes out there from 50, 40, 30, 20 years. And if we had known a morgue was going to be built there, who want to live by a morgue?
Exactly. 833-758-1065 is the number to call if you'd like to join the conversation here on Front Page Jacksonville. I'm in the studio right now with Lydia Bell. She's the president of Metro Gardens Neighborhood Association of Brentwood. And she just shared with us how the drive-through liquor store came about, as well as the city-approved morgue that's coming into Brentwood. Ms. Lydia, that was my first question when I read the story. How did this happen?
When you have lawbreakers instead of lawmakers, these people they make it appear like they are the city of Jacksonville. We are the city of Jacksonville. Citizens, CITIZENS. They are our paid representative from the mayor and the 19 city councilmen. Now, I was saying that out of the mayor and 19 city councilmen, someone could say, wait a minute, this is wrong. A morgue by a school, a morgue by residents' homes, a morgue in a neighborhood. You could go all over the United States and the world, and you would not find a morgue in a neighborhood. It is pure insanity. But when you have people that have business interests before the people rights, because you know what, Jacoby Pittman just had a meeting to inform the constituents that they do not have to inform us about zoning changes or any zoning of someone coming into our neighborhood.
That doesn't sound right.
It does not make, well, when you're about businesses, then you want to override the residents' right. How do you just come in and start pulling down trees and you say nothing to the community at all? So this is when, even down to the liquor store, I call it the first crime scene.
Yes, ma'am.
The former general counsel and he is called the general. He is the leader. I think it's about how many? 43 city attorneys. I might be wrong with the number, but he's over all the city attorneys. And as far as the liquor store, he ruled based upon my review of the processing and consideration of E-2036, there is no evidence of any issues or problems that would impact the ability of the applicant to legally proceed with the liquor store use at this site. But the city ordinance says 500 feet away from a school and a church. Right. So when you got your top lawyer in the city of Jacksonville that would go against the city ordinances, this is what we're dealing with, just pure lawlessness. We need lawmakers instead of lawbreakers, and it's time for a change. If these people they're just even down to what the liquor store gonna be. On August 24th, when Mayor Donna Deegan said that they were gonna buy the liquor store and it can be a community center, now we're faced with someone coming to our meeting telling us it's going to be a business center. We asked who made that decision. Scott Wilson and Gregory Grant say they didn't know. How do you come and tell people what it's going to be, but you don't know who told you to come there and tell us what it's going to be? So we're dealing with all this insanity, but we are fighting for our rights. We are determined. If Sean Conn can get $1 billion of our tax money to make him happy and change all the downtown and what have you, well, then the citizens of Brentwood should be able to use that $64 million that they're using to build that cemetery, that morgue.
Yes, ma'am.
And use it for a Brentwood Skills Center instead of Brentwood Kill Center. Death does not belong in our neighborhood, and we're going to keep fighting this until the bitter end.
How can myself and the rest of the Jacksonville listening community support what the Metro Gardens Neighborhood Association in Brentwood is fighting right now? How can we help?
Awareness. When we were dealing with the liquor store, everyone told us, y'all not going to stop that. You all not going to stop that. I had a newspaper editor to call me up no less than 4 times and tell me, you're getting old, girl. You know I love you. You need to stop. You all not going to stop it. And I was trying to convey to her, it is not my job to stop it. There are city ordinances on the book that should stop it. Yeah. If the city ordinance says 500 feet away from a school or church and the liquor store is being built, drive-through liquor store, is being built 32 feet, it's not for me to stop it. The law is already on the books.
And you make a great point, because that ordinance is a very true ordinance. I was previously the regional director of operations for Idea Public Schools. And so in my role, I was responsible for identifying potential locations for our next school to be built. When we were looking at locations on the west side, we were shown a particular property, but guess what? We couldn't move on it, because there was a liquor store 100 feet away from where that property was. So that was a very short meeting, because the ordinance had already stated what could and couldn't be as it related to where our school was going to be placed. So this is troubling.
Very much so. And we love our neighborhood. Let me tell you just a few of the things we've done since 2011. We stopped a crematorium from opening. 2012, we stopped the Department of Transportation from permanently closing Pearl Street and Liberty Street exit off of MLK Parkway. 2013, we stopped the permanent closure of Brentwood Library, a lovely library we still use today. 2019, we stopped zoning exception appeal to stop T.S. Warden from opening up a crematory. 2023, we stopped the opening of a liquor store. So we're just constantly fighting Brentwood. And they also we're now really concerned about stacks on the roof, because we have constantly asked them, will there be cremation? They said no, but we're seeing different. But at the same time, if a drive-through liquor store wasn't good to be there, why would you bring a 300-body morgue? Because they don't care. This is a black community, so you need people who care about black people in the city. And for 60 years, they have been redlining putting anything they want in the black. Jacksonville is the largest city in the world by square mile.
Yes.
4 acres. They could have found anywhere to put this morgue, but instead they just squeezed it into a neighborhood. And that's insane.
Look, I don't know who that reporter is, and please don't share the name, but whoever that reporter is that said you're getting old, hang it up. No. There's a whole lot of fight in Lydia Bell and the rest of the association, because that list that you just ran down of everything that you all have been able to fight and overcome. Now, I'll be honest, as much as I do my best to stay abreast of what's happening in the news, many of these things I had not heard of. And so we speak about awareness being one of the key ways that we can help support your efforts there in Brentwood. I agree wholeheartedly, because you all were able to accomplish these things. I could be wrong, but were you on any radio shows to help with promoting awareness during the time with those?
At that particular time, no.
Yeah.
At that particular time, no. But what has happened, believe it or not, our organization is so small with about 7 women and 1 man. Because our brothers, they don't live long enough. So it's mostly senior women out here fighting for against this.
Yes, ma'am.
But what has happened is the first time we went to City Hall to speak out, you had Wells Todd and Maceo to come and ask us what's going on. And we told them they've been fighting with us from day one.
Yeah.
Maceo, they do the, Todd and his wife, Etta, they do the press release. It moved us further. So when people heard us speaking about it, more and more people joined us. Now we have rallies. We had one December the 7th. We had a rally. We're having another rally. And the way people can help us is support us vocally and come to our rallies, because it was our consistency. We have been going down to city council speaking out since February of 2023 nonstop. I'd rather be home. We have worked. We have retired. We have raised our children, our grandchildren. Now we're working on our great-grand. But we can't retire. We just lost a committee member.
Wow.
And I feel so bad that instead of her living her life out, we were out there on the front. She was on the front line we were out there in 95-degree sun.
Wow.
Picketing in a liquor store that shouldn't have even been there. And now we're dealing with a morgue that shouldn't be there.
When is your next rally?
And it probably will be February the 8th or the 27th. I haven't determined what date we're going to do it.
Yes, ma'am.
But can I give my number if anyone concerned? If anyone would like to reach out and be a part of it, because we have started Brentwood 300. We're stating that if they can bring 300 dead bodies into Brentwood, we want to fill that street with 300 live bodies to say hell to, as Whitney Houston would say. She didn't say hell to the no. She said hell to the nah. Take that, and we are alive in Brentwood. Who want to wake up going out their house every day 3 feet from their home by more?
Not to mention the chemicals that are going to be fed into the water in that community. Yes, ma'am.
Same sewage system.
Yeah.
And then the odor, they say it won't be any odor. How you know? I could guarantee no odor would be there if that morgue isn't there.
Exactly.
It does not. The psychological depression of having to pass a morgue every day. Our children going to school with Casper the Unfriendly Ghost. It is just amazing. And then we need new leadership. These people are not doing their job. They're about big business as opposed to doing what's right for our communities in this city. If you're not going to do the job right, let somebody else do the job. And our council person, Jacoby Pittman, I mean, this is nothing personal.
Sure.
Because I didn't know her when she was raked over the internet during the time that DeSantis came to Florida and saying, let's get this party started. What party? 3 people just got slaughtered here. So sometimes she's just out of touch with reality. This lady has voted against us for the morgue, have voted for the increased acres of the mall and lied on us on TV. She said studies were conducted of what the residents want, and out of 70,000 people, only a few are against it. Well, a few are the ones fighting for the neighborhood. You're going to lie on almost 70,000 black people that they will want a morgue in their neighborhood? She is totally out of touch with reality.
Wow.
But we're trying to help.
Absolutely. When you get the final date on when the next rally is going to be, Miss Lydia, please let me know.
I will.
Because what I would like to do is, reiterate the date to the listening audience here on my show so that the listening audience can come out and support.
Please.
But then also for myself, I want to be able to compare that date with my schedule.
Okay.
So that I can come out to support as well.
We certainly would need it. And that telephone number, anyone that's interested, my cell number is 904-428-6552. You could call or text. Well, we are still going to fight. The building is, I think they're supposed to have a grand opening 2025 of March or April. But we still feel, as we told the owner of the liquor store, if you have a grand opening, we're going to have a stand opening. We're going to be totally against it to the bitter end. Bring life in our community. Make it a Brentwood Skills Center. If you all could give Sean Conn $1 billion, well, give us a Brentwood Skills Center for, it's not even $100,000, but he gets $1 billion, you know?
It's Lydia Bell. She's the president of the Metro Gardens Neighborhood Association in Brentwood. Death is not welcomed in Brentwood. And I'm telling you right now, you can think these are just a group of little old ladies that you can just have your way with. You don't want to meet them in a dark alley or a well-lit street. I'm telling you right now, they're going to give the Avengers a run for their money.
Yes.
Because Miss Lydia has a lot of fight in her. Miss Lydia, thank you so much for standing up for the Brentwood community, but also coming on Front Page Jacksonville to share your story with us.
Okay, thank you so much, $1 Million Voice.
You're very welcome.
$1 Million Voice.
Stick around. More is on the way on Front Page Jacksonville.
Front Page Jacksonville resumes on Hot 106.5.
Listen to me. Miss Lydia had a binder filled with receipts and facts. When I tell you, she is out here in these streets for real, ready to put up her dukes against anybody at the city, local, or state level that's trying to abuse and misuse Brentwood. Miss Lydia want all the smoke. She want all of it. Okay, I'm surprised my next guest is even confident enough to sit in the seat he's sitting in, because she came in and torched the mic and the seat. But joining me right now in the studio is the Assistant Director of Program Quality and Community Engagement with Kids Hope Alliance, Mr. Sylvester Pinckney. Brother, what's going on, man?
Oh, man, this is a blessing to be here with you, man. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
You just keep up the great work that you're doing and being the voice of the people who cannot be able to speak. I appreciate you, man, this morning.
Absolutely. And just very quickly to wrap up what Miss Lydia and I were discussing, you're in the community on a regular basis,
yes,
Sylvester.
Right.
And you mentioned, because Miss Lydia stated that they've worked their careers, they've retired, they've raised their children, they raised their grandchildren, and now they find themselves raising their great-grandchildren. Yes. What are you hearing from our senior citizens in the community?
Yeah, and I have mentioned this several times, that when I'm in a community, rather I'm going to Mary Singleton, and what I'm finding out is that the leaders like us are not doing what we're supposed to do. So our seniors are saying, hey, we are now raising our great-grandkids. We're trying to make sure food is in the refrigerator. We're trying to make sure the work that they're bringing home, that we know about it. It's a lot going on, and this is during the time where they should be relaxing, enjoying life, and they're not. And we have to find ways to support them. You know, and I always look at things in three phases. I look at us as we look at the kids as our future. We, the leaders, in the middle, and our seniors are the foundation. We are the branches that support both of them. But unfortunately, what we did, we're losing a lot of the kids. Yeah. Right? And our seniors are taking the burden during their elderly time where they should be relaxing. And we have to find ways to fix that. And And it's sad because it is what it is, and we have to be able to support them. And these are the things that they are telling me. So,
right.
Yeah, so we just have to be out there, man, and step our game up.
Well, let's talk about the kids, because you're with Kids Hope Alliance. For someone in the listening audience who's not familiar with KHA, what is KHA?
Yeah, Kids Hope Alliance, we are formerly the Jacksonville Children's Commission. We are one in probably 11 children's service council in the state of Florida. What make us different is that our budget has to be voted on from city council. The other one, like at Broward County, Palm Beach, they have a tax authority district where the community vote on this half cents, and they create these funds for the community. So our role is to, through the RFP process, we put it out, and these agencies that we have, the YMCAs, the community schools, the Boys and Girls Clubs, the Don't Miss a Beat, JAMS, these are organizations that apply, and through the voting process, they'll be able to get funding. And our role is to make sure that we're protecting taxpayer dollars. Yeah. And one of my roles is to go out there and not only look at those programs and making sure they need any support, but also bring those programs that do not get city dollars or federal dollars, but do, and some don't want them. So I go out there to try to find ways to be able to branch them, because they are doing great work, and we have to find ways to be able to bring them into the on what's going on with the educational and support piece, because we got to keep our kids in a safe environment, educational environment, and be able to, they have the deserved opportunity to be successful as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so you have an opportunity to touch so many different organizations, as you just mentioned, all about empowering children right here in the Jacksonville community.
Yes.
So with there being so many different organizations that focus specifically on kids in the Jacksonville community, what are some of the gaps that you're seeing? What are some of the organizational opportunities to continue empowering youth in our community that's not necessarily being done right now?
I think, number one, we have, it seems as if we're doing a lot, touching a lot of kids. We are. But we have a whole bunch of kids that are not being touched. And I think we have to find ways to be able to have other supporting financial support. And that's why I always talk about, when I go out and talk to businesses, hey, city government can't do it all.
Yeah.
Business community, you are sitting in the heart of the community. What can you do? These are the reason why I have those KHA one-on-ones, to be able to bring those organizations together, but to create that collaboration and partnership, because I know money is slim. Everybody's trying to get the same pot of money, but you cannot defeat power and collaboration, because everybody is great in their space. And once we bring everybody together, we can be able to cover those gaps, because one of our push is literacy and workforce, right?
Yeah.
And we need to continue to find ways to partner with those organizations outside of the ones that we fund. Because when we're talking about making true change, it's not only the ones that we're giving funding to the agency who provide to those kids.
Right. We
We have to touch those kids who do not go to these programs, or not part of it, but still are impact in our community. So those are the things that that I'm seeing, and the things that we can try to do to cover that gap.
Man, I want to circle back real quick. You mentioned about the KHA 101s. Let me let the listener know very quickly just how impactful that is. I attended one in July. I stepped in the room. Let me take it back a beat, because you and I spoke very briefly at Center of Hope in June at their Juneteenth event. And you said, yeah, man, I want to invite you to this little meeting that I do, this, that, and the third. So I'm literally thinking it's going to be a little meeting. Me, you, maybe two, three other people.
Right.
July comes around. It's time for the meeting. I step up in the room. I got there late. That's
okay.
It's always awkward when you get there a little late. Man, there was like 60 people in that room.
Yes.
It was 60 people from the community who had either started an organization, wanted to start an organization, and Kids Hope Alliance was right there dropping knowledge. This is how you establish a nonprofit organization.
Amen.
Man,
that's right.
Look, I was all in at that point, because here's the thing. Prior to that meeting,
that's right,
I thought it was very financially exhausting, but also that you needed a lawyer and all these other things in place to establish a nonprofit organization.
Right.
But the information that you all shared made it so tangible. Sylvester, I submitted all of my paperwork last month for my nonprofit organization.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm just waiting to get the 501c3 approval.
There you go.
But that was thanks to what you're doing there
Appreciate
at Kids Hope Alliance,
Yes,
man.
yes.
So where did you get because this is your vision.
Right.
Where did you get the thought to start putting those meetings together?
Well, to your point, when I mentioned about a lot of people like, who is Kids Hope Alliance,
Yeah.
right? So sometimes, and I'm talking about huge donors. So I was like, okay, well, do you guys remember the Jacksonville Children's Commission? Yeah, yes. I say, so in 2018, the last administration changed us over to Kids Hope Alliance through essential service categories and, do the spiel on who we are. But I was telling at the time, Mr. Mike Weinstein was our CEO, and he was like, we need to get this back going for people to know who we are. But through those meetings, and me being boots on the ground, I found out that we have so many powerful organizations. They may have 20 kids come in, but guess what? They come in every day. Mm-hmm. And bringing them into the same room of others where we can collaborate, exchange cards, information, and create this network of people that's doing powerful work in the community, where we then can help each other because, everybody say, hey, I need some funding and stuff. And in government, our job is to make sure that the taxpayer dollars are accounted for and used properly. And one of my jobs is to make sure that is happening. But the more we educate those providers like yourself, and I'm excited to hear that.
Thank you.
To come in and we educate you on how to start your 501c3, how to do business with the city, the structural piece. Even Ms. Pat McCullum was there one time to talk about her role on how your paperwork need to be. And so, and Ms. Joyce Watson, who handles that on our contract piece with the city, Kids Hope Alliance. But it's powerful because it brings everybody together. And one of the other things they talk about is that nobody knows who is doing what. Yeah. I said, okay, let me bring everybody in this room.
Right.
And we talk about it. And if you really paid attention, I only did like 20 minutes of who we are. My purpose is not about us. It's about who was in the room, what you're doing, the impact you're doing. So the voices in the room, how you collaborate, cards exchange, it create a powerful Jacksonville, Florida in the community base. So that's my role, and that's why. And I'm going into like my 15th one now. Wow. And it's powerful. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to those meetings, and then we're gonna start trying to go a deeper dive with it, right? And doing stuff with different topics. Like a couple of them called me and say, hey, let's do something on health and wellness, which is that, because of my health situation. Right. Let's talk about health. And we know that men don't want to go to the doctor. Yep. So we are using the platform to be able to also cover other things that related to not only our families, our kids, but the whole community. When we do that, we have a stronger community.
Absolutely. And you mentioned a moment ago, I just want to make certain that the listening audience have context. You are a two-time stage 4 cancer survivor, lymphoma. It ain't no 5, but but God is good. Indeed. The faith and having a strong wife, Sabrina, my son Jarrell, my parents, Yvonne, my sister Cheryl, sister Patrice, Aaron. So we're a family, we're a bonded family, and then when you go through something like that, those little things is powerful. And then not only that, when you go through it, you find out that it's not about you, right? Sometimes God uses you as your testimony to others, because people like, you ain't know you went through that? I said, yeah, because they got to keep it going. Yeah. Right. So yes, I just having my faith in God, having that family support, the strength, even my job family, having everybody there to support you
is powerful, because I have talked to people who went through what I went through.
Sure.
And not only that, I have 2 friends that called me just last month and said they had it, but they called me first because they know my journey. So, but yes, to answer your question, yeah.
Well, kudos to you, man, for not only overcoming, but still choosing to be an example to others.
Amen.
Who are currently experiencing it, but also promoting the awareness for us as men to get to the doctor.
Yes.
Right. And so keeping myself accountable, because my wife, she had been on me. She's listening right now.
Yeah.
I have a new primary care physician. I went 3 years without a primary care physician. Have a new primary care physician, Dr. Clark. All right, he got me covered.
Right.
And so he looked at me.
Accountable.
And accountable. And he said to me, hey, bro, look, you're 46. Yeah. It's time for us to start having these conversations because of our demographic, right? So there will be a future show. I think June is Men's Health Month, where we're going to be talking about these things. I'm going to get the doctors in here. Brothers, listen to me, brothers.
Yes, right.
We're going to talk to us about some very real things that we need to discuss so we can be here as long as we can for our friends, for our family, but also to continue walking out our purpose. Brother Pinckney, share with the people how they can get involved with Kids Hope Alliance.
Well, you can go to our website, www.kidshopealliance.org. Sign up for our newsletters, kind of see what we do in the community. With us being a government entity, the department, is other ways that you can do through those agencies, right? But my KHA 101, make sure y'all sign up for our social medias, because we'll put out there when it's the next one. Come in, listen to what we got, listen to the partners in the community, and come and share what's going on. Or even sometimes just be a listener, because we all as one family, we want to be able to support what's going on in the community as well as the family. We just heard Ms. Bell talk about she's still fighting at 74 years old in the community, and us as young leaders, we have to do better. My organizations that went, rather than 100 Black Men, my Masonic group, the Fly Jacks, all our male group, we have to be more assertive directly in our community, and be an impact. So, so if they can sign up for our newsletters and they'll keep track of that, and then, I'll be around.
Absolutely. Hey, stick around. More's on the way. You're listening to Front Page Jacksonville.
Now back to the show that informs you and discusses the issues. Front Page Jacksonville on Hot 106.5.
So many nuggets were dropped on the microphones today here in the studio. If you missed the first guest that was with us in the first hour, Thelma Straight has a documentary that's going to be on PBS tomorrow called Rhodes Scholars. It is an empowering and powerful documentary where she took 12 young men back in 2009. They were teenagers at the time, and had an opportunity to sit them in front of affluent African-American men from different walks of life so that these young men could hear from those older men in an effort to hopefully make a positive impact on the lives of those young men. Well, this was back in 2009. What was the outcome of that? Did the young men take heed to what the older gentlemen had to say? What does the life of those young men now look like, because they themselves are now men? Well, you have to tune in tomorrow on PBS, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, to watch Rhodes Scholars and find out what the story of these young men are today. Because what they've done, the initial young men who were teenagers and are now men, they've gotten them together once again with the gentleman that they interviewed back in 2009 to talk about what life looks like now. We then had Lydia Bell. She's the president of Metro Gardens Neighborhood Association of Brentwood on the show. Listen to me. Miss Lydia don't play the radio, although she was on the radio with me this morning. She don't play it. She literally had a binder of receipts, breaking down city code and ordinances, dates, catalog of different things that happened and took place. She stated that one reporter told her on several occasions, look, you're older now. it's time to stop all this fighting stuff. It's time to stop all this activism. Go ahead and pack it up. And she said, well, let me read off for you what these old ladies have been able to fight. And she started stating about liquor stores that they've been able to have reversed and not coming to Brentwood, and other things they've been able to stave off from negatively impacting the Brentwood community. And she stated that herself and her other team members, it's her, 7 other ladies, and 1 gentleman. They're all 70 plus years old. All of them. But the fight isn't over yet, because what they're now fighting in Brentwood, the city of Jacksonville has approved for a morgue and forensic lab to be placed in Brentwood. 3 feet from KIPP. That is not okay. So I asked Miss Lydia, well, Miss Lydia, how can we help? How can myself and the community support? She said, well, we have another rally coming up. Awareness and bodies. That morgue that they're trying to put up would house 300 dead bodies. She said, for this rally, we want to have 300 live bodies in the streets, letting them know that death is not welcomed in Brentwood. And I said, well, Miss Lydia, let me know when that date is. I'll check my calendar so that I can be certain that I'm there to support you. Well, guess what? In the midst of talking with Miss Lydia, Mrs. Davis, my beautiful bride, texted me. And I haven't even had an opportunity yet to read the text in its totality. But I did see the words, oh, we going out there. We is going to be out there. Okay, yes, ma'am. Well, my schedule is set. I don't know if I was supposed to work or not. I'm going to use some PTO because Mama said we're going to be out there with Miss Lydia and them. So that's where we're going to be. But you know what? Even though I don't live in Brentwood, you may not live in Brentwood. It doesn't matter. What matters is that we show up to support our brothers and sisters in our community. Jacksonville is our home. Now, don't get me wrong. I know that we represent our neighborhoods. I get that. There's a sense of pride that comes along with growing up in Knight, Sherwood, Turtle Creek, wherever your neighborhood may be. I get that. But Brentwood needs our help right now. Brentwood needs our support right now. So I just want to encourage you. Metro Gardens Neighborhood Association of Brentwood. Google them. Reach out to Miss Lydia. She gave me her contact information. I have Miss Lydia's number, and she gave it out on air. Miss Lydia's number, 904-428-6552. 904-428-6552. That's Miss Lydia's number. Contact Miss Lydia to find out when the next rally is taking place. She's asking for only 300. Only 300. I know that there are more than 300 people that listen to this show and to this radio station. So let's get out there to support Miss Lydia, Brentwood, and the children of the Brentwood area, because I agree with Miss Lydia. They should not have to be exposed to death first thing in the morning as they seek to go to school to get a better education. Before I head out, I have less than 60 seconds. Shout out to Warren Smith. He's the president of the ILA Local 1408. A few months back, the longshoremen were on strike. And we had President Smith here in the studio after there was a tentative agreement that was met. And he shared with us on the show that they were going to get together again in January. I believe January 15th was the deadline. Kudos to the longshoremen as well as the maritime company. They were able to come to a tentative contract agreement this past Wednesday. All of the details have not been released just yet, but it does appear that the longshoremen across the eastern seaboard and Gulf Coast will not be going on strike once again because they was talking some sense. The maritime company was talking some sense with those contract negotiations. So shout out to them. Hey, that's going to do it for today's show. Thanks so much to Jack, my producer. Thank you for hanging out with me today on Front Page Jacksonville. Stick around. Health Beat with Wanda P is coming up next. I'm Octavius Davis. I'll catch you next time.
Front Page Jacksonville, Sundays from 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. For show episodes, go to hot1065fm.com. We are Hot 1065.